Hello, friends, and welcome to the first episode of the Gray Matters Group podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore the nuances of professional interactions in the context of how every touch point, whether internal or external, impacts leadership, professional reputation, and how we are perceived in business. And today I'm honored to welcome my first guest, and he's a very good friend, Bill Gallagher. Bill is the CEO of SEI, a business and technology consulting company with 13 offices and nearly 700 employees across the country. Bill is a graduate of the University of Georgia. He's a Marine Corps vet and seasoned consulting leader with stints at KPMG, Arthur Andersen, and Sara Lee, before joining SEI nearly 20 years ago. Welcome, Bill. It's great to have you.
Great to be here, Dave. Yeah. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for making it to Chicago, my friend.
Yeah, I love Chicago.
It's a little hot out there.
It is. I was expecting it to be a little colder, but that's okay. I'll get over it.
Well, I have to tell you, I've had the distinct pleasure of having a front row seat to the growth of your organization, working with your company since 2018, and the trajectory is fantastic. And now 13 offices and almost $200 million of revenue and 700 employees. Congratulations!
Thank you.
And of course, everything's been easy.
Of course,
right? Nary a ripple on the pond.
It's just been amazing, pandemic and financial issues here and there with the economy. It's challenging, but I am a big believer in surrounding myself by people that are much smarter than me, and I continue to do that, and that's how I'm successful. And the team that we've got at SEI is just amazing. So,
well, to me, you're the epitome of this whole thing that we're talking about here today. Every touch point matters. And I think a lot of organizations don't pay attention to that. And to me, you live it. And so I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing your perspective, how that's playing out in terms of the growth of the business, how you're interacting internally with your employees and coworkers and such. I personally think it's important. I believe you live it as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Bill, before we go too deep, let's just talk about the business climate, professional services. You and I have been around, we've got our gray hair, and we've kind of seen a lot, the ebbs and flow of the industry. Where do you think we are right now? What are some of the things that your firm and the overall professional services sector is faced with from a challenge standpoint?
I think it's a couple of things. First of all, I'll say that we got a little complacent during COVID. And it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud now, because the first couple months of COVID, nobody knew what was going to happen. Professional services, everybody was losing clients and nobody was spending money for about 3 months. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, okay, we need professional services to help drive all this potential growth that we've got. And so things got really good, really fast from a sales perspective. And then fast forward, you got interest rates rising, you've got changes in policy at the federal level and so forth. And honestly, sales went back to the way it was prior to COVID. And I think compounding the issue, things are changing at a much more rapid pace now than they had in the past. And so that introduces a unique environment for us right now.
And throw AI in.
Oh, correct.
As well, right? And I think every firm's trying to sort out where it applies in their service offerings and such. And what about the competitive landscape? It's got to be pretty tough. That's what I'm seeing.
Highly competitive. Not only mainly for clients right now. It ebbs and flows, like consulting does. However, we're just seeing that it takes a lot longer to get people to commit to the sale, to signing on the dotted line, to initiating those projects. And money is expensive right now, so people aren't borrowing money to do things. If they don't have the cash to do it, they're not pulling the trigger on it right now. I am hopeful and encouraged by what I'm seeing. It seems that things are starting to loosen up a little bit. I think with the Fed signaling that they're going to lower rates by 0.25% or 0.5% at some point in September, and then followed by another one a quarter later. I think people are already starting to think, okay, I can take on some of these CapEx projects now and move forward.
Boy,
So
I hope so.
I do too.
Because honestly, I've never seen it this way. We've got a reasonably robust economy.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the jobs growth and such, although I don't think that's in professional services.
No.
In fact, there's been some regression there. And you think about what it looked like back in COVID, where we were just trying to find warm bodies.
Right.
And the money that was being thrown at these individuals. And now we've got to make some tough choices in terms of headcount. And then those that we do have on board, we've got to retain them.
Right.
Because we've kind of culled the herd by this point, and we want to make sure those individuals stay engaged.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the landscape is changing, and I'm hopeful, crossing fingers for the future. You know what I do. I'm all about the relationships, and we've been kicking the tires on this concept of, every touch point matters. Every interaction, internal, external, with your employees, with your clients, with your prospects, with your marketplace, it matters. It influences how we're perceived in the marketplace. And I'd be just curious to get your perspective on that.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I think relationships are always going to be king. You're going to need relationships in order to sell, to recruit. However, I think there's also a shift in buying habits, and that shift that we're seeing, and there was a recent Harvard Business Review article in the last 6 months, and I'm drawing a blank on the title, but they talked about the psychology of these new buyers, these people that are replacing the boomers in these higher level jobs, and they're now making calls on buying. And not only do they want the relationship, which you got to have the relationship to just get to the table, but then the speed to expertise. They want to know that you've got the expertise to deliver the goods in a professional services setting, and it's not just about relationship anymore. They're not going to necessarily even buy from you just on past performance. They want the experts at the table in front of them and talking about what you can do for them.
It feels like in that context, there's been some history with the buyer or with the company where there was a relationship, and that sort of trumped a lot of things in terms of you being qualified or not. Now I think what you're saying is, hey, you got to demonstrate expertise up front, right? Then we can get into the relationship thing. And I couldn't agree more. And so good for this next generation of decision makers leaning into the expertise. But to me, again, I'm just throwing it out there, everybody's pretty strong. Eventually it's going to come around that everybody's pretty strong from a technical standpoint, right? I think the expertise for the most part is there. If you don't have it, you might not be in business, right? 100%. So, and the types of individuals that you're hiring, they're just not relationship people. They're deep subject matter experts. So once I think you can get over the hump of qualifying from an expertise standpoint, I still think it comes back to building and nurturing that relationship.
I agree with you. I don't see a world where we just rely on AI bots to get us meetings, and then all of a sudden you put the expert in front of them, right? I think you're still going to need that human interaction, looking people in the eye, knowing that they trust you, that the people that you're even bringing to the table with the expertise, that they're valid and they're going to be able to do the work at hand.
Well, they bring a qualitative dimension, and I know your firm. I know the people that you've hired. It's just not a bunch of deep technicians. They're communicators. They're proactive in their dialogue with their clients. They've done their homework. they bring more to the table, in my opinion. And all I do is work with professional services firms. And I'm not blowing smoke here, Bill. I really believe it. You've been smart about the types of individuals that you've brought on board. So congrats on that front, and I think it's a platform for growth. But again, going back to this concept of all of these interactions, it does, just in nurturing a current relationship, keeping it fresh, staying top of mind, so important. So it's a mindset I think you and your firm have. So I'm going to give you great props for that. Thank you. What in your background help kind of build the foundation of that mentality?
Oh, wow.
Let's go back. I mean,
way back.
Could be childhood, could be Marine Corps, could be your consulting. Are there some moments or stories?
I think if I look back across my life, even starting back when I was a small child, heavy influence from my grandfather on my mother's side. Quintessential storyteller. 10th grade education, farmer, Charleston, South Carolina. But everybody gravitated towards that guy. And the reason why they gravitated towards him is he had fantastic stories. He could make something about growing, tomatoes really interesting to people. Or, he was a World War II vet, so he had a lot of experiences throughout his life, and people would literally just stop by his house and want to chat with him. And so I think at an early age, learning that, seeing how he was always willing to talk to people and just kind of put himself out there was impactful to me. Okay. And then, along the way, looking at Arthur Anderson when I was there in KPMG, Sara Lee Foods, I worked for a great VP there. And one of the common traits that they had was they were all really great storytellers. And then the firm I work for now, SEI, Dan Pierce, the founder, probably one of the most phenomenal storytellers you've ever met. He's just, he's the guy that, if you got him around a table, people are kind of honed in and listening to what he has to say. And it's interesting. I think that's one of the things that I noticed, that the people that were most impactful in my life were great storytellers. They weren't afraid to put an opinion out there necessarily. And I've tried to mimic that as much as I can. So
good for you. I'm sure I know it's serving you well in your capacity as CEO, and just having models of that kind of behavior. You saw it, and now you see it embedded in you. How does that translate to the young people that we're hiring in when it's harder to model that because they're remote or they're somewhere else? I personally believe it's become tough.
It has.
What are your thoughts?
I think, I can tell you from a professional services perspective, we insist that we get together in person. And by the very nature of the people that we're hiring, most of them don't want to just sit at home. They're hungry to have that human interaction. They're consultants. They want to be around people. They want to talk to people. They want to use that skill set as part of their problem solving for our clients. And so, as you know, we're highly collaborative. That's one of the things that we hang our hat on. And I don't think you can do that without building relationships. And the only way you build relationships is to get some time with one another in the fighting hole, so to speak, whether that's around the water cooler, or that's at lunch, or that's on a project. I think that's all very important. So we used to never have office space. And now, as a result of COVID, we went out and got office space because we wanted that home base, that center for our consultants to have at least a few days a week, if they're on a remote gig, that they can come together and get some fellowship and collaborate with their peers. And so that's important.
Well, good for you for recognizing that. Now you're investing in brick and mortar that you didn't necessarily have to before. So there's an expense element to that, right? But you believe it outweighs.
Right. The upside is I've witnessed the upside. So.
Fabulous. We're going to get to culture in a little bit because I think you've built a really unique culture, and everybody talks about culture.
Of course. Yeah.
That's our competitive culture.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Right.
We'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to talk about your role as CEO.
Okay.
And when I was introduced to your firm back in 2018, I was doing some research and trying really to understand your business model,
right?
Which, quite honestly, is unique. Different and unique. Local ownership. Your 13 offices owned by a group of local individuals who deliver in a local capacity. Yet now 13 offices, you've got a pretty significant footprint. I think COVID probably moved you into more of a national presence.
It has.
Because you could deliver remotely across state lines and such.
Well, we couldn't do that before because we wouldn't get on a plane.
So, there you go. And your job is creating alignment across the different offices, 13 who are independent and want to be entrepreneurial and be able to do their own thing. Yet there's also the needs of the firm at a national level or at a corporate level.
Right.
That's a delicate balancing act.
It is. I think if you keep the idea that the brand is owned centrally and sales, who you sell to, what you sell, how you adapt to that local market from a hiring and sales perspective, and even a culture perspective, is unique to that local office.
Okay.
And then my job is to set pace and direction for the company, but also in a very servant leadership way, provide support, remove roadblocks, and that sort of thing. So celebrate wins, but also, hey, I've done this before and I've seen that. It's not going to work out like you think.
Doesn't that come back to this every touch point matters?
It does, 100%.
I mean, all these interactions, like I said, delicate, sensitive. Want to give them space,
right?
But also we have to recognize the balancing act, and for you to find that way, that servant leadership, pretty amazing. I can't believe it's been all roses.
It hasn't. No, right? It's tough. It's with growth comes a lot more responsibility from everybody, but from me as well. And I've always looked at it when I took this job. It was okay. There were initially 180 families that are relying on this business to be successful. So the decisions that I make and how I interact. Got 180 families. Well, now fast forward, we got over 700 families that are relying on this business for their livelihood and their future and that sort of thing. And I take that very seriously.
Sure.
So I think if I had to look at this and I could find some way to get back to where I knew everybody's name, I knew everybody's spouse's name, I knew their pets, especially if they had dogs, and their kids' names. I used to be able to do that, and I don't have that luxury anymore. But I think there's still some unique ways that I've tried and experimented with to get out in front of people. I travel a lot, obviously, but I'm a firm believer that I got to be in front of people. I got to talk to them face to face, look them in the eye, let them know who I am and what I'm about, so that they want to work here and they're proud to work here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking you in the eye right now, and I feel how powerful that can be when you're doing that to your employees, to your people. How have the touches changed? The touch points changed internally from pre-COVID to where we are now?
Right. So I used to hit every office 2 or 3 times a quarter. That was when we had 5 or 6 offices. Now 13, I can't do that. Obviously, I've had to use technology to get my message out there. I do more broadcast type events and that sort of thing on a quarterly basis, and then try and hit the spots in between. I've also found that I have been spending more time in front of clients, and I kind of joke with the team. I probably shouldn't say it on the podcast, but I enjoy going and talking to the clients, and I'm pretty good at thanking them for their business. Okay, and that's what I do, and when I'm in front of a client. But I think like that has also been, more time, all these touch points take more time, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's so important. I'm willing to invest it.
I couldn't agree with you more. So it sounds like the touch points have shifted a little bit more toward external facing. A lot of internal still.
Yeah.
but finding your way into conversations at an executive level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember it in my IBM days, and I've told the story to you, how I leveraged branch management and regional leaders to come out and spend time with the clients. Not
Right.
all the time. We want to make it unique, special when they did come. But it was that presence meant something to the client because we're bringing, our special leaders to the table.
Right. Yeah.
And just thanking clients and showing appreciation.
That's very important.
Yeah.
But there was an unintended, not consequence, but an unintended outcome, if you will, of me getting in front of these executives.
Yeah.
I find that I'm learning from them as well because I'm hearing their stories, and it helps me to be a better leader, if that makes sense. I know that sounds a little funny, but you're listening to what they have to say, and some of the trials and tribulations they're going through are not unlike what I go through.
Yeah.
And so hearing them out and listening to their stories has been really helpful.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's servant leadership. You're a humble guy. I admire you for that. But I will tell you, I think a lot of firms can learn a lesson from getting their leaders out in front of clients. It's not happening. I just don't see as much of that these days that I used to see back in the 80s and 90s, learning from IBM that how important that was and just showing appreciation. You know, the assumption is, hey, as long as we're doing good work and we're on time and on budget, they're going to love us.
Right.
Well, I think there's more to that that relationship at an executive level that needs to be nurtured. And I think those touch points are missing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. One last parting thing I was going to say is, I think COVID also affected that in a negative way. So I think people got complacent when I was talking about complacency earlier. The grind of, it's hard to make time for all of those touch points, internally, externally, and so forth. And so I think a lot of people just got away from that during COVID, and then they never really returned to it. And that's one thing that I'm trying to do now, is to try and figure out ways that I can double down on it. I want to do more of it. I don't want to do less. And so that's where I'm at.
From one outsider to you, I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Keep it up.
I will.
Let me shift a little bit if we could. You guys just went through a pretty extensive rebranding exercise. And, I think it's fair to say, SEI is not necessarily a household name like some of the other people that we have the privilege of working with. But the feedback from your clients is, my gosh, when we start working with your people, we're blown away by it.
Right.
Why don't we know more about you? Right.
Exactly.
So you have
That's
a new brand logo. It's called Great Work Just Works. Right. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we hired a brand house out of Atlanta, Matchstick, and I've known the CEO for a while. I've used him on some not-for-profits and have seen his work in action, right? So, and they are a true brand house. I was interested, I don't want to change the logo. I don't want to change the colors. I was kind of upfront with that. Or I take that back. I don't want to change the logo. I don't care about the colors. Just figure out the colors. And then what I'm really interested in is the dialogue, what words are we putting on our collateral? What words are we saying to potential clients and our clients? And so they did an extensive process where they went in and they interviewed over 40 of our clients, so over 75 of our consultants, and they pulled out what we were good at and then what we weren't good at. And one of the things that we weren't good at is sharing what we do with our existing clients, because they all 40 plus of them raved about our expertise and how, I get promoted when I bring SEI in, or, reliable outperformance was sort of the theme, right? And everything they said. But then, when asked, would they make a recommendation? Oh yeah, I would, but I know what they do for me. I don't know what they do for anybody else. And so that's something that with the new website and some of the dialogue that you see on the website and in our collateral, and even the talk tracks that we are giving our consultants, is more around getting on the same page about what we do as a brand and educating our clients so that, we can do good work in other places. And that's been a big deal. I think that's going to be a game changer for us.
So when I read it, great work just works. It's the epitome of what you guys are about, because once you do get on site and you execute, they love you. So it does work. But is that only about, hey, on time, on budget, technical competence, or does great work mean something more than that?
I think where we're successful and what we've been successful for 32 years is when we can get in, build a relationship with someone, and the technical aspect, everybody does that well in our business, or you don't stay in business, right? I think one of the differentiators that we have is that we navigate the internal politics. We take the time to build the relationships with the stakeholders and make an intentional point to have those touch points on a regular basis so that we can help them help themselves, if you will. Yeah. And that is really, in my opinion, what that tagline is. It's not just about the technical expertise or the industry proficiency that we possess. It's also about, how do you navigate very complex, politically charged environments? How do you navigate extremely complex business problems and get buy-in on it?
So Bill, that message, those relationships can't just be built by you
no, they're built by the consultants.
That's where I'm going with it, because a lot of times it's not a natural act for them to think beyond the technical, the delivery, the billing of the hours, the deliverables. So what is it about this group, and I go back to every touch point matters, that you're embedding in them to proactively engage at a higher level?
I think it starts with who we hire and how we hire them. We're looking for people that are highly emotional, intelligent, have a high EQ, and that helps, obviously. But then once they get in the door, as you've been involved with our training, you had orientation, and even in our offices, we talk about how important these relationship building exercises are, and even role playing. And now, I see at staff meetings, people are doing it just to kind of stay sharp with it. And that's really, I think, how we get to that point. And I'm always amazed, honestly, at how good some of our people are at it. It's just, it's fantastic to see. And, I go back to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, and you'll be successful. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing.
Well, you've added to their plate, however, the need for them to get clear on messaging with this new branding, right? And so they may be comfortable engaging, but now they have to be comfortable telling the story consistently. And to a certain extent, there's the national story, and then there's local spins on the national story, right? Because each office has their own.
We want them to adapt to the local markets
and things, right? So there is some flex there. But how are you ensuring that these folks have the message, have the data points, have the talk tracks, but also comfortable sharing that? Because that was the big hurdle. You said, hey, I'd love to introduce you to other people. I don't know what you do.
Right.
So how is that getting integrated in?
I think it's been very intentional in terms of we talk about it a lot. We talk about the fact that a friend of mine shared with me the other day that he read 80% of clients are willing to make a recommendation, but only 17% of the consultants are willing to ask for that recommendation. And so that's one thing, right? Putting yourself out there and ensuring that you're talking to people about not only what we do, but making the specific pointed ask, and not just, I think one of the things I see consultants doing, because they got day jobs, right? They're billing 40 to 50 hours a week. And then, in our environment, because we're so flat, they're expected to help with sales and recruiting and culture building and so forth. that you have to make it as easy as possible. And so you have to, that's one of the reasons why we did this branding exercise.
Yeah.
Get on the same page. If you talk to somebody in Boston, they should be saying the same thing about our M&A expertise as someone in Miami, for instance, right? So getting on that same page has been helpful, I think, and that's been a big exercise in this brand. But then just talking about, hey, build a relationship, do good work, make the ask. You got to make the ask. I've also seen a lot of people go into sales conversations and someone's handing them the work basically, but they want you to ask for the work. They're not going to just write the SOW for you. So I think that's another hurdle to get over with some consultants is that, they don't know when to make the ask.
Well, it's why I'm in business.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so what you just shared is not surprising. It's not a natural act for the typical consultant technician who went to school to be a deep subject matter expert.
Right.
Let me stick to my knitting. Let me practice my craft, stay out of my hair. And now they're being asked to do a little bit more, do other things that may push them outside their comfort zone. And it comes down to some of these qualitative interactions and such. And it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. It doesn't.
And some level of investment is required to upskill these folks, continue to nurture those learnings. You've had exposure to the relationship expansion for professionals programming that we've delivered, I think, to almost 350 people
at least, your firm. Maybe more, yeah.
And in each of the offices, I've had the privilege of going, and each one has their little different nuance, culture-wise. But at the end of the day, all in on SEI. But what's your feedback on our programming? What you've seen, what the content looks like, the level of complexity. I hope it's not too complex because we try to keep it simple. The process, the rigor, and maybe some of the benefits that you've seen.
I think the big thing for us was just the way that you presented it was different than me or a managing director coming up there and saying, oh, go build these relationships. Here's how you do this. And your program is easy to digest. And so that, I think, is a big deal. Like I mentioned earlier, everybody's got a day job. And so it's got to be something simple. It can't be overly complex. Now, I will say this, it's also a certain amount of discipline, which I think you talk about, and one of our managing principals calls it networking hygiene, basically. You brush your teeth every morning. Guess what? You better be doing some networking hygiene on a daily basis as well. So I think just hearing you talk about the benefits of it and also reiterating that, hey, one or two touches is not going to necessarily yield the results that you want. It's a longer game. It's an investment. It's laying out the breadcrumbs, or is it candy? Dropping candy. That's right. Yeah, dropping candy. That's right. So that is, I think those are all things that people have grasped onto.
Good.
And really, honestly, like it's you just got to do it, and that's the biggest thing. Is people were not necessarily disciplined enough or didn't know how to do it, and some of the role playing that we've done has been helpful.
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah, I think we've seen some great results in terms of deal flow, lead gen. But at the end of the day, it's half the battle is breakdown fear factor. Yeah. Because these folks don't want to look like they're hustling, selling, right? Give them a process, and kind of let them run. Keep it simple. Have some fun with it. Let's not take this so seriously. Yeah. So many people that I work with think, oh, you're going to change me. You're going to turn me into a sales guy, and I don't want to do that. No. I'm going to fight it to tooth and nail, right?
I don't want them to be sales guys. If I wanted them to be sales guys, I'd go hire a bunch of sales guys. I want them to be consultants first, and I honestly, I find that our consultants are our best sales team because they have been in the trenches. They know how to design an engagement. They know what it's going to take to get the work done, and they're not just making promises that they haven't walked a mile in their shoes. So.
Fabulous. Well, Bill, let's wrap up real quick, if you don't mind. I mean,
of course.
We really haven't talked about some of those talk tracks about SEI, and I want to make sure they get out to our audience. Tell me a little bit about the organization overall.
Okay. So, been in business for 32 years, founded by a guy named Dan Pierce in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I think Dan's original vision, I know his original vision was to work with people that he liked and he trusted, and no B team, only an A team, so that when he put his reputation out there to sell something, he knew that two things. One, that the people were going to be consistent and show up that he had hired, and then also that they weren't going to damage his reputation when he made promises. And so we've tried to live by that for the last 32 years, and that's that consistency, collaboration. Those are some of our guiding principles, and we live by that.
Certain areas of expertise from a technical standpoint, from a project management standpoint, from an industry standpoint?
It's changed over time.
Yeah, sure.
Before I got there in 2005, they did a lot of client server work, around software and networking and that sort of thing. Got more into business consulting over time, and it's ebbed and flowed. And sometimes you see where an office might be heavier on a data and analytics or now an AI side, and less on the generalist or the business consultant. And then others are heavier on the business consulting side, and they've learned to adapt to the people that they know in their local market and who they can sell to and what they can sell. So that's been a big thing.
And then I always see an industry flavor depending on the different offices.
That's 100% right.
Right.
What's interesting about that is some of the offices are pretty homogeneous in terms of the types of industries that you have in a particular city. But then you look at like Atlanta or Dallas or New York. I mean, you've got a lot of professional services in New York, obviously, but there's a plethora of industries to choose from. And so if you try and be an expert in all of them, you're going to fail. So you got to kind of pick and choose what we're good at and then go after those industries.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
Yeah.
Bill, I can't thank you enough for coming to Chicago, hanging out with me live.
Yeah.
And congratulations on just building and serving an amazing organization.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All the best to you, my friend.
Thank you
again.